Hi, hello folks. I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily TA Wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective each time, asking ourselves what happened today and what might it tell us about tomorrow. I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the Rocky Mountains. It was another day of stretch as the markets move on up and doing exactly what they need to do. You got the S&P stretching higher, 10 points higher, 0.5%, 1920 closes at the high. That's pressing for a weekly, actually another daily ABCD structure on the way up. It's getting pretty close now. I suspect we're going to see it hit it before this is done. Industrials up 65. They're pressing towards the highs. They're only 15, 20 points away. 16,698 and 3/4. We got the Russell was just down slightly, 1140 today. Couldn't get moving. The powerhouse one more time. NDX up 0.63%. Apple was really leading the way, up another 10, 11 bucks today. 23 points on the NDX, 37.35 and 3/4. And the composite, the broad composite, also pressing higher, going for the 4-4. Breakdown bars highs, 42.47, 42.48 roughly, up 0.5%. Gold down again, $6. That's 3 days in a row as it gets the follow through. Oil up 80 cents. We had a ruling that favored the XLE and the oil, the large drillers, natural gas, oil drillers. Dollar down slightly, bonds were down a bit, 30% on the long bonds. So, same sort of story, right? I mean, nothing much different here with the exception of the small caps not leading the way anymore, but instead trailing. If we flip over and take a look at the charts to see what we got here, and I did get a text message. I've got the text messages. I've got a problem with the text messages, so if you happen to be listening in, send me an email, support@tatoday.com, and I'll pick up that and try to do it for you. And if we are able to get the text messages up tonight, I'll grab it from there if I can. All right, getting back to the show, GSPC, let's see what we got. So, what did we do today? Let's flip through this. So, you know, I talked about, I don't remember when it was, but we were talking about the fact that this would be the retest, regenerate zone if and when this comes back, and probably not so much if, but when. And then for it to have a better chance of holding, what you really wanted is you wanted some sort of a stretch to the upside, and that's exactly what it's doing. You got a little pause yesterday in here. Today, you leg on up farther. The only bad thing about this is not everything's moving with it other than the NDX in terms of percentages, but it is legging higher. It's doing what it has to do. It has been the strongest index, so it's not surprising that it's the one that's leading. And the fact that it's leading is good, right? I mean, that's what you want to see. And we'll see if it can continue. Right now, it's not showing any signs of stoppage. We do have another ABCD structure that's in place here, and I believe it's the one from the bottom if I remember right. And this one measures up to, I think it was 1922 or 24, so it's just above, either 22 or 24, 2 to 4 points higher. Volume tails off, price heads higher. It's a big stretch. We're starting to get extended now. You know, in my terms of looking at it, you know, this is a decent extension. Remember, we got ECB next week. Clearly, this is related to the fact that the central bankers are getting behind these markets one more time. We're having it with the ECB, with Draghi, and I suspect this market is doing what, we talked about two scenarios. One is that you could run up into the news and then sell off, right? Or the other one was that you sell off before you get to the news, and then it's a buy the news. This one, because the Russell did not break down, it flipped around. We took off to the north. We're running up into the news. That's going to bring a sell the news reaction as a result. And so from whatever level that is, I suspect we're going to get some sort of a pullback on the news when it comes out. Now, it may turn out that what that ends up being is that Draghi doesn't deliver as much as these markets have priced in. But we'll have to see how it plays out and what it ends up being. But I suspect that's what we're heading towards in terms of the way this thing is running up. Let's look at the broad composite next. This one also heads higher today. Percentage move wasn't that good, a little less volume, but it's trying to head up into that 4-4 breakdown bar. NASDAQ's way over it. I mean, the index is way over it. Most of the sectors are over that bar now. Only the broad composite still trails it. Broad composite still about 100 points below the highs. So it has quite a ways, actually about 140 points below the high. So it still has quite a ways to go just to catch up. But that is a measure of the narrowness of this advance, right? When your broadness in the NASDAQ is not there. It's not in the Russell. It's not in the NASDAQ. They've been trailing. They continue to trail. So the NASDAQ heading up, that's 42.67. We closed 42.47. So we're talking, 19, 20 points away. It's going to try to tag it before Draghi does this thing. And when I say before it's over, I'm talking about before the pullback off that ECB news. And it's not like it has to wait until Thursday morning to do it. That pullback may start Wednesday, may start Tuesday. We may even get it tomorrow to some degree, right? But that's probably what's going to trigger it. The pullback is going to be triggered off of this. Maybe a little pause tomorrow. You got the weekend coming up. Maybe they just keep, they've had good returns this week, so it's not uncommon to see some more push tomorrow and then some profit taking. But that wants to try to hit it. NDX, this one's going after the highs. It's right there, lower volume today, going right after the highs. Just missed it, 37.35. The highs are 37.38. So we're within 3 points, within spitting distance. It gets over the last remaining significant bar. That's 2 bars that close over it now. That looks like it's kind of put the rest of this whole thing. This one is definitely extended at this point. Then the Russell. The Russell, clearly not as extended. The Russell couldn't move. Still an inside day. That's 2. And the Russell and the IXIC, the broad NASDAQ, those both had multiple swing point highs that they got over, right? They're hanging 2 to 3 bars. This is bar 2 for both of them. So we've got bar 2, 2 to 3 bars is all you can expect. So we're at that extension, right? And it doesn't mean it will stop here. And just like you see on the Russell, it didn't amount to anything. On the NASDAQ composite, it did. On gold, it did to the downside, right? But again, they do what they're supposed to do. They don't trade back underneath this and close underneath the swing point highs, and that's what the extension is all about. And once again, it does what it's supposed to. Let's look at the sectors, and the market has ran on the back primarily of 2 sectors: technology, transports. Those 2 sectors have powered this market higher for the last week and a half, right? A huge part of the NASDAQ or the NDX has been Google and Apple. Those are the largest weightings, and the stocks. And so if we go look at these, and then of course the IYT was the other side. Well, the IYT had that big blow-off move. It did close over it today, but that still looks to me like this one's just about done. It looks like a range trade setting up here. It would have definitely looked like a range trade had it closed under yesterday's high, 145.24. It closes just over at 145.35. But that big push that suggests that this thing's going to probably try to range trade on this time frame. On the SOX, which has been another big piece of the NDX running up, the SOX goes up today, tests the 4-4 breakdown bar, tests the high, doesn't have the volume, and fell. So you fell in price and volume at the highs after an extended move. That's begging to pull back. But then we have rotation elsewhere, places that I didn't expect it. XLB gets over the highs and extends. Doesn't have it, it's a suspect breakout, but it does move higher. XLE gets over the highs and extends, or wants to extend now. Doesn't have the volume, suspect breakout, but it's over the highs. There was a small ABCD structure here as well, and it looks like that one's almost done. 1, 2, yeah, from here to there, back down, back up, so a little bit farther. That one's, you know, it's going to try to reach up here, grab the ABCD structure probably, and then get some sort of a retrace. There was a ruling today, Department of Justice, that favored the nat gas drillers, the shippers, and I think the oil, just general oil drilling as well. And that, I believe, was probably the impetus behind this move today. So there's two sectors that are really pushing that I didn't really expect to push, and that's adding some juice to this market, allow it to climb higher. XLI, we were looking for this one to try to break out. It did. Suspect, but a breakout. XLK, we were thinking might try to pull back in. Nope, goes higher. Apple, of course, was the big mover today in it, but it's pushing higher. Again, just like the NDX extended, wants to pull back. The other big one that we're looking for some rotation into to keep this going is the XLF. Still an inside day, did close at the highs almost. Really not much there. That's day 2, or bar 2, I should say, of that multiple swing point breakout. And so it also extends. Another place rotation is happening is XLP, back at the highs and over them, and that's a confirmed, I believe it's a breakout. Let me see what that high was. 44.70, no, just shy of it. So it's attacking the highs with volume. That looks to break higher. That's going to be a small ABCD structure, so it will push a little bit higher and then probably come back. But again, the money not leaving, simply going somewhere else. In this case, going to some safety stuff, but working its way around the market, not leaving the market. So what money is there doesn't want to leave. XLV also gets over some key areas. April 4th breakdown bar, the March 21st breakdown bar. Remember, this was the first one that started to break hard with the biotechs. That tops 59.72. That's the last of the big ones. It's going to try to attack it tomorrow. Absolutely no volume is going up there, but it's going up there. So it's heading into the last of the major resistance, the last major place it broke down, and it's going to attack it and see if it can break it. So you can see the money has continued to just move just as it has to if it's going to work its way higher, and that's what it's been doing. The last of the sectors that really can't get anything going still is XLY and the XLU. XLY coming back up to the 4-4 breakdown bar. So again, like last night, there's enough positives here to make me think this market can try to climb again tomorrow. I don't see anything that's going to stop it yet. As you know, when you start getting extended and you get 5, 6, 7, 8 days up, and I think this is like day 6 now, it can pull back at any point. But at the same time, this is classic bull action. It goes, it doesn't give you any kind of a retrace to get in, and then by the time you finally decide to get in, well, it's a little bit late. And so you have to, you got to take these breakouts and just believe them, and that's hard to do, but that's what you have to do. And it's especially hard to do this year because a lot of these breakouts have failed. In this particular case, like here, you had breakouts over multiple swing points that allow you to get the 2 to 3 bar extension, and that's what these guys are doing. Okay, so what else we got let's go look at the bonds. So the bonds, I believe, failed today. I didn't watch them. Okay, the volume 10.3. Wow, that's about as close as you can get. So about 2,000 less shares traded. Goes over, back under. That's not a 2-bar reversal. That's nothing more than just a pullback, right? I mean, there's really nothing here to tell me it's going to come lower yet. So this high was 114.41. That would probably be the most negative thing, is it's back inside that high volume bar at the top. So yeah. So we'll see if it can pull back into the bottom of it. I wouldn't get too excited on the downside, but 113.60 maybe would be the better test on the way back. And the dollar, I haven't looked at it in a while. Let's see what it's looking like. Yeah, just climbing on up as the FXE dies. Let me see, the FXE I think got under all the lows easily, yeah, and just kept going. So a huge ABCD structure here. This is all Draghi. Right, this guy has been trying to talk the euro down forever. I guess if you put a time limit on it, you can actually move it. And that structure, it's going to take it down to 130. What is it? 133, about 132 and a half, 133. So more room to move here, and that should continue to help Sorry about that. That should continue to help the overseas markets, in particular the DAX, as we come into next week's big announcement. The DAX is hanging at the highs, and the French CAC, which is probably the most screwed up economy right now, still hanging at its highs. It's amazing. And the FTSE, let's see what the FTSE looks like. Working back to the highs. So you can see Europe proper getting a big boost off the expectation that Mr. Draghi is going to release the water guns and let the money flow again. Let's see, gold. What did gold do today? So gold pressed a little bit lower today. Actually reversed finally. So that low was 120.92, which closed just over it. So it's going to get a little bounce. Gold, just like the S&P, the others, they're going to try to come back and do an ABCD structure. Not an ABCD structure, but a retest regen off the lows. I would expect gold tries to do the same. It's only 3 bars on the break now. So actually 2 bars on the break, so it could get another bar down and then some sort of a retrace probably. But gold, kind of in the dumpsters here. It's going to have a hard time coming back up. On the weekly, it's got a little bit farther to go, right? Because the ABCD structure on the weekly will take it to these lows. 114.68. Silver held today and actually did pretty well. Let me see what the ending numbers looked like on it. Yeah, so it tested into the lows and held 18.16. It almost got to them, not quite, so it didn't even do the full test yet. But gold's in kind of bad shape here. It probably will be for a while longer. Let me see what else. Foreign markets, overseas markets, still mostly higher. I mean, there's not much happening. The only one I looked at that looked like it was ready to try to pull back, which kind of feeds in with the SOX trying to pull back, was the Taiwan market. And the Taipei, the TSEC, you get over the top, back under. That's an over-under at least, and it's almost enough to call it a 2-bar reversal. But that's definitely going to try to come back in finally. So that's the only one overseas that looks that way. The rest of them still look fine. China's still hanging at the highs. Really not much changed over there. All right, let's see. I see some questions, and let me see if we can get our text messages up. Now, we got some issue here today. I don't know what the issue is. So if you email it to me, I will take it, but you might not be listening. So at support.tatoday.com. Let's see what questions we got here today. What do you do with a stock like ASTC? It went up today, then came right back to the open. Would you let it close the gap or buy here or avoid it altogether? Well, let's see what ASTC looks like. So let me pop this in so I can get the multiple charts up at once. So we got ASTC and CLMS and GDP. So let's put them all in and see what they look like. ASTC. Oh my goodness. Okay. I hope you're already in it. So this is Astrotech. And what do these guys do? They're some sort of defense industry, it looks like. So they got a huge spike. This is a cheap stock, $2, huge volume. Must have been some sort of a rumor of a takeout or something. No, evidently it's agreed to sell its operations business to Lockheed Martin. Okay, so that's why it broke out. Okay, so this is, we talk about exogenous events, right? To some extent, these kind of events are exogenous events. They can make a huge impact, right? Especially if this thing was being shorted, which I don't know if it was or not. Let's look and see. You know what I mean? If there's a big short interest on it, that can have a huge effect. So ASTC. No, I didn't have any short interest really. No real revenues, growth. They don't make very much at all. So it's aerospace. So yeah, you can't hardly trade this. The thing that this does do, right, when you see this, and let me pull the weekly over so folks can see the weekly here. The thing that this does is, when you go back and look at it, this thing was trading at 65 cents at the low, right? And that was October. So we're, fast forward, 8 months, and you're trading as high as 451. You've been up there already before. You've already had the bulk of the move back here, right? And then you get a day like today where it goes skyrockets all the way to the top and then comes all the way almost back to the bottom. What does that tell you when it's a news event and it's exogenous? Well, what it tells me is that that was what was being bought back here. That's already baked into the price, right? And then it kind of drifts and drifts until the news happens, right? And then it makes it spike again. Okay, so if I go back and lean back over here and look at it, that to me just begs to be sold on the spike given the way it ran up over on the weekly. And that's exactly what they did. Now, the other piece of what this should do, and it's not as easy to trade something like this, is it should set up a range trade in this area. The problem is that they've agreed to sell it. It isn't sold yet. And so you could get this thing to drift all the way back in and have a larger range before you know it. So it's hard to buy that bottom. So what you have to do on something like this, in my opinion, is you have to just let it trade a few days and see what it wants to do, right? Is it going to come back down here? Or is it simply going to come all the way back up, right? And then at some point drift back down, right? And give you the buy back down in this area. The problem is this is a one-time event. Once you sell it, you can't sell it again, right? It's one time. That's all you get. And so the price bump that you got out of it, unless you make really good use of that money that you get, maybe it takes you out of a debt problem, whatever it is, it's not going to continue to contribute to your bottom line. So I would probably, unless I was in this thing, I'd probably just avoid it for now and just watch it. My guess is it's already happened, and the trade's gone. If I'm in it, I try to take the bounce, any kind of bounce I get, and trade out of it. And take my money. And I probably would have done that early this morning if I had a choice, but I didn't even know this thing was there or it was moving. Yeah, especially when you look at it here, right? So the news happens, the big spike, and then they sell it off all day long. So yeah, this thing was sold. So if you're in it, I'd be trying to sell here. I'd be trying to sell this area on any kind of spike back up in there. CLMS, let's see what that one looks like. This is your old friend, isn't it, Federico? All right, so it's coming back in to, no, this is different. This is not the one I was thinking it was. Okay, so you got on the weekly here, you got a big bar range on the weekly. And when you have a big bar range, yeah, hang on just a second here. So this high had 1.5. So you break over it with 1.552. Yeah, so you had just enough. So I would be looking at this area, right? I mean, just like the charts show you, that area right there, that's the key area. I'd be looking for it as it comes back into the bottom of that range. That is a heavy buy area if there ever was one. Your stops go up underneath it here, right? So you're looking to, stop out down here somewhere, and maybe you use the bottom of this bar if you want to be very safe. And do your ATR off of it somewhere down there, and you try to buy it right in here somewhere as it comes back into this area, because that should be, if it comes back in there, they should buy it, right? If they're going to buy it, they're definitely going to buy it there. And the only bad thing, yeah, you had a takeaway bars coming back, you left volume at the top, but that still looks like the trade. So yeah, it looks like a good trade, not a lot of risk and pretty high probability of success if you're trading it off of that time frame. The other one is GDP. So GDP is Goodrich, and they get over the highs. Yeah, the move's a little late here. Here's the weekly. So that top is 28.55. Oh, okay, so you're over it, you don't have the volume. 12.7. Yeah, it's not going to have the volume. You have a big ABCD structure up though. And you're breaking on 2 time frames. I don't know, that's pretty positive. I would, this is another close call, but this one probably will carry higher. So it's just hard to buy it. You try to get a retrace into this high maybe, or towards this high. And that way you don't have to take a lot of risk on it. Put your stops up underneath this high. That's the way I trade that. And for whoever texted me, sorry I couldn't get it. Now, I just couldn't get to it. Okay, tomorrow, real quick here, wrap. Market wants to go higher. What can I say? It's got enough negatives to where it can get a pullback at any point, but there's certainly enough positives to keep running. So if you're leaning, you're leaning in the direction of the trend. The trend's up. We almost had breakdowns less than 2 weeks ago, and that would have changed everything, right? You would have had to flush out. You would have had some great buys. Didn't happen that way. So now you got a market that continues to struggle, has a lot of issues. But you got the spigots fixing to be opened again, or at least that's the expectation, and they're buying it into that. So if I'm looking at this, you can't be shorting this thing. You got to be trying to lean with it, but you got to lean careful because you're going to get a retrace. If it can extend 2, 3, 4 more bars, then give you the retrace, almost guaranteed that retrace is going to be bought, which would finally set up a decent place for somebody to actually make a larger position move. Folks, have a great night. I do thank you for joining me. As always, I ask you to tell a friend, tell 2. I'm LA. This is, and it was, your daily TA wrap. Have yourself a great night. Take care, and I'll see you next Sunday. Good night, folks.